Good evening, everyone, or whichever time greeting you would like to inject there from wherever and whenever you are. Before I get started here, I would like to start with a Bible verse that I think that is ultimately very encompassing of what I'm trying to discuss for this first episode here. It is Ephesians 4, verse 31 through chapter 5 on to verse 2. And I'm using the NASB 95. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving each other, just as God in Christ also has forgiven you. Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love, just as Christ also loved you, and gave himself up for us as an offering and a sacrifice to God as a fragrant aroma. I'd like to talk about bitterness and why it is truly the poison that you drink to harm others. So I guess I should probably start with, why do I think that I can talk about a topic of bitterness? Where are my credentials? I can probably think of bitterness spot that at least comes to a long time memory has to do with my mom's side of the family. Pretty much ever since that I can recall that I had what would be the term, a place at the table, if you will. You know the feeling that you get when you get to be at the adult table when you're a kid, and I'm talking about like maybe 5 through 7 or 8. At least in my family, and I know that in some of the families of my friends, it was a prestigious place to be able to be featured at the adult table. I remember having the opportunity to sit at the table at around probably 7 or 8, but I never really had a voice or was really accepted at the table as being, well, what do you have to contribute? Probably not up until 13 or maybe even 16. And one event that I remember that really started my journey, I guess, in bitterness is the adults were talking about something in particular. I don't remember exactly what. I think it was having to do with politics. But I remember at the ripe age of not very old, I was asked a question and I provided an answer that I thought was very reasonable ultimately. It was something to do with politics, but it was basically that, how could whatever president or politician do this? And I made a guess as to an answer. And I remember that pretty much all of my mom's side of the family turned and kind of looked at me, not in disgust, but just, your answer has zero meaning whatsoever. Even though I thought it was a perfectly reasonable thing to say and a perfectly reasonable thing to assert, it had no value at all. So I thought about it and I wondered what I said that was wrong to be dismissed. And I remember not really understanding if there was something that I didn't cuss or anything. I didn't say anything that was, I don't think apropos is the right word. I'm bad with vocabulary, so I apologize if I use things indiscriminately. But I didn't say anything that was necessarily objectionable or dumb. It was just outright disregarded. And I couldn't understand that. I think I ultimately came to the conclusion that it's probably because I'm just a kid, and I get that. I am just a kid. But I remember not having an answer to that. Fast forward probably a good couple years to the point of really being able to be featured at the table and being asked, what have you done this week? And I remember getting the distinct realization around that same time, probably about 14 through 16, something around there, that I needed to do things and stuff in order to be featured, to be able to kind of present my piece of why my week was worthwhile. I remember thinking that the goal of the week is to be productive, to be able to get stuff done, to be able to get to this family dinner that we had each week on Sundays. And when I get to my point of the what have you done this week, I get to be able to really make a showstopper. So at this particular time, they got to me, I gave my piece, and it was just passed up. Not to the same degree that it was when I was 7 and 8, but it was just kind of, you're capable of more. And I get the idea of always saying that you are capable of more. Totally agree. Not to a 15-year-old kid. And not saying that you need to do better in order to be heard, kind of, you're capable of more. But I remember that being a very pivotal moment in this particular time that really made me wonder, I have to be doing something wrong. I need I need to do better. And so I did. Probably for about the next decade I did. Around 16 or 17, my grades jumped starkly up, and I don't mean at all to say that to be prideful or I'm better than anybody listening. Not at all. I'm just trying to give the progression of what I did in order to earn worth. And the year after that, I was top of my class, and the following several years, my grades were consistently running high. And then getting into college, way better than I was when I was 13, 14, and early 15, where I didn't really care about school or even have any heart at all in school whatsoever. I honestly just watched a bunch of videos and petered through school. But I was able to get a significant improvement in really everything, grades, everything. And when we would have these conversations with family, I would bring it up. I I have all of these grades now. I have all of this expertise. I have all of this stuff. I'm able to be heard now. And I remember that there was definitely more included as, okay, so you do have some stuff behind your name. You are more knowledgeable. And now that you've done learning, now I can actually hear from you a little bit more. And that was great as long as I could maintain that I was actually doing stuff and that I was actually I was being somebody. You really got the expectation that you're not somebody until you're somebody. So that's what I kept doing. I got a 3.9 GPA. Again, this is not me saying that I'm better than anybody. And I told my family and mom's side of the family, to be clarifying. And I almost remember word for word that it was pretty much, you completed that, you're going to be able to go through life with that, and that'll help you, and you'll be able to make us proud. Anyway, turns to another family member, what did you do this week? And I've never known how how to be just dismissed for, the last time, and just not wanting to try anymore, and then being so infuriated by that, and seeing how I had worked so hard for, if it wasn't a decade, it had to have been very close to a decade, trying to make me worth paying attention to be heard, and to have discussions and not be considered just a kid. And by this time, I'm already 22, a stupid 15-year-old kid. But I did not have even that. Moving forward in the next few years, I noticed that even with that degree, I still really was nothing if I did not consistently upkeep my worth. And I would be a complete and total liar to say that I did not feel hate and disdain towards my family for doing that, because it felt so unfair for all that I had done, for all that I had put into it, for all that I had tried to do, and I still was not enough. And I didn't acknowledge it probably up until last year, but which would be 2025 of this recording. I was bitter. I did not care um, whether or not I ever had them reach out to me again. I did not want to speak for a long time. It's one of those moments that when you see other families that just seemingly have it so right, where all of the family members support you unconditionally, kind of thing, always being so supportive and so helpful, and just there in support of whatever it is that you're doing. And I did not feel like I had that from my mom's side. And that's one of those moments that I can recall that I really had frustrations and really had problems with. Lord, I can do all of this. I can be everything that they want me to be, yet I still am nothing ultimately. And if I did not acknowledge it to myself, I definitely had bitterness towards God too. Because it's that kind of stuff that it's, why do I have to pay chronically for their love, for their acceptance, for their validation all the time, and I get so little in return? I couldn't figure out why I had to be the one to pay for it, and why I had to why I had to suffer with that. But it wasn't up until I really acknowledged that the bitterness was a problem. And in reading, in all honesty, I've read and reread the first like 4 or 5 chapters of this book, and it's because the chapters are so dense. But How to Be Free from Bitterness by Jim Wilson and other and other essays on Christian relationships. I will be quite honest, I have been begrudgingly going through this book and disliking most of it, not because it isn't a good book, but because I don't like what it says about me. But in reading it, I really do hear me. And it made me wonder that if they ever could say sorry, and it covers it in the book, would it even ever be worth it for me? Would I even be able to forgive them even then? And when I really and genuinely ask myself that, not in a pompous way saying, oh, yeah, sure, I could forgive them. I'm a Christian. I can do that. That's easy. No, I would not be able to forgive them, even if they could say sorry 1,000 times genuinely. And it's that kind of bitterness that really tells you that you are a horribly bitter person. And I really started to get it that I am not going to be able to earn their love, and that ultimately their validation, their approval, being featured at the table ultimately does not matter in the end. The verse that I really has been resonating with me, 1 John 4:18-21. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves punishment, and the one who fears is not perfected in love. We love because he first loved us. If someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For the one who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. And this commandment we have from him, that the one who loves God should love his brother also. And it makes me think about my struggle with bitterness, knowing that I can't change them. I can't earn their love. I can't earn any validation or anything from them, no matter how hard I try, because I have tried. But I can love them. Doesn't mean that I can change what they did. Lord knows I've prayed that it could occur that way, but there is no use in turning back the clock. But I do know that I can share it. And I know also that I can forgive. And I think and compare to everything that I've done and everything that I have said or thought, I am no better than them. Even if you sinned once, you've sinned too much. Because in the sight of God, sin by itself, no matter how great or how small, is despicable and detestable. And no matter the amount, if it's once, it's too much. And I have sinned. For that matter, everybody has. We're born into a fallen world. And for me to say that, Lord, forgive me, but not them, I am being a incredibly bitter, privileged, and unforgiving person. And I know that it's not a matter of they don't deserve it, because I don't either. I am no better than them. And it's only by grace that we are able to have it in the first place. And if you're really going to think that God is all just and all knowing, you can't have this one-sided thing that he's always in your court. Because if we're going to think of that way, then he's in everybody's court, and he can't be for everybody individually, yet against everybody at the same time. And that's hard. And like I said, that hurt me for a while. But I know that I can forgive. And as the book talks about in the first chapter, which I definitely agree, it may take a while. It may take a while to be able to forgive, even a little bit. But you forgive as often as need be. And eventually, there is nothing more that you can remember to forgive because it's resolved. One of the things that I liked in the book, in this first chapter, it's a quote by Amy Carmichael, was for a cup brimful of sweet water cannot spill even one drop of bitter water, however suddenly jolted. And perhaps it's because I was reading too far into it. I couldn't understand what it was that she was saying up until I thought about it for more than 2 minutes. And yeah, she's right. If a cup full of one liquid, sweet water in this case, is full to the brim, it cannot spill anything indifferent to that. And if it can, it clearly wasn't ever filled with sweet water in the first place. So forgiveness is the only option. Being bitter and being disdainful towards those who have wronged you, however great or how small, whether real or imagined, ultimately is the poison that hurts you with the intent to hurt others. Anyway, that was just something that I was thinking about that's been on my mind for the past couple days. I will continue to update when I get through the next chapter. I do thank you for being here, and I hope it was helpful.